Let's continue the social media conversation as it's time for cash tags. For that, we're going to bring in Megan Brantley, VP of Research at LikeFolio.com, and we have Jenny Horn back with us as well. Jenny, Pinterest.
Pinterest, a company I know you all are very familiar with because you both use so very much, correct?
Megan, and I want to bring Megan in quickly on this conversation because I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that 58-year-old ex-trader, broken down old rugby player Kevin Hinks is not the target market for Pinterest. Tell me if I'm wrong here.
Yeah, I think you'd be an outlier there if you were.
Thank you.
I definitely think so. But
That's a nice way to put that.
This is a company that just IPO'd. It's kind of an interesting story because they are actually growing their monthly average users. I saw a number by 22%, and their revenue is growing per user by about 26%. So they are growing, but there is a lot of skepticism still surrounding this company because it is new, because it just went public in April. So what are you seeing with Pinterest?
Pinterest is really interesting to look at. I think, like you said, it paints a different picture of a recent IPO. You know, a lot of times when we look at IPOs, we see them releasing at all-time highs from a purchase intent perspective. And with Pinterest, that wasn't necessarily the case. They kind of have more of the slow and steady growth. What's really interesting, though, is they've recently increased their capacity to grow their revenue. And they're doing this by making things shoppable from inside their platform. So the chart that you're looking at, these are mentions of consumers who are talking about buying something that they saw on Pinterest, whether it's purchasing a product that they saw in a recipe or buying a shirt from, a fashion board that they follow. And I think that that's important moving forward. You know, they introduced these shoppable pins in October of 2018. And since then, you can really see that uptick in purchase intent, which is good for advertisers and brands as well as the platform.
I feel like Alex and I should really just go wait in the hallway and let you two just kind of talk about this. However, from a trading perspective, hey, it doesn't matter what it does. If it's tradable, we'll throw it around and play with it. But Pinterest is one of those names that, you look at the fundamentals, it's a relatively new, young company with, if half the population is interested in Pinterest, okay, that's good enough for me, frankly.
Well, and the one thing, Megan, that I think this is a little bit different than maybe, let's say, Snapchat and Twitter, kind of different social media names that although they might get a bigger web of users, Pinterest has a very clear way of how to monetize their user base. As you're pointing out, having shoppable pins on there. My big question would be, how much has Instagram's kind of shift towards that really impacted it? Based off your data, maybe not as much as one would think.
Right. I think that if you're comparing platforms, Instagram is definitely the most similar in terms of a rev capture perspective. But when you think about Pinterest, you're not necessarily thinking of this as a social platform. You're not going on to look at what your friends are doing. This is a more personal experience. It's more of the things that you like and the things that you follow, and you're seeking out ideas. You're seeking out discovery, which, if I'm a brand, that's where I want to be. I want to be where people are actively going to search for things. It's a little bit less intrusive. I think that obviously Instagram is doing a great job. I believe we talked about them being able to capitalize on this a few weeks ago, but I think that Pinterest really is in the best position if you're talking about, really engaged audience members.
That is very true. And Instagram is really just beginning to dip its toes in monetization, where Pinterest is kind of, I feel like, the original of what it does. And I actually saw on Twitter, ironically, IKEA is now transitioning to print its catalog on Pinterest. So IKEA is a huge company. They put out a 200-page catalog. This will all live on Pinterest, which is just only good news for Pinterest. But our first tweet is from Allison Creed, who says, "I wish I had sold my pins yesterday, but I am holding. People are just getting scared." Agreed. So with all of these tech IPO names that came out, we have Uber, we have Lyft, we have Pinterest. Is it just a fear now that it's been a few months?
You just talked about IKEA and Pinterest hooking up, and I'm thinking to myself in my brain, wow, there are two things that couldn't be further away from me in my life right now than Pinterest and IKEA.
Gosh, I am so right there.
Yes. This is right in Jenny's wheelhouse.
IKEA and Pinterest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It sounds like a good.
Although you could be in the new furniture business.
Well, just looking at that roll or the B-roll that we just had of Pinterest. Searching dining room table, things like that are things that I think if it was more known amongst maybe guys amongst the world. I think that's something I could use. I just didn't really even realize what it really fully was. And so when I'm looking at this, Megan, though, I always I get confused the difference between, Pinterest and Etsy. And so what I've gathered over, the couple times we've talked about these is Pinterest is you're looking for ideas. There's now showing ways that you can buy things. Etsy is more of a personalized marketplace where people are kind of selling things like little shops. Is that correct?
Yes, I think that's really fair. Etsy's selling these handmade products that you can purchase. I'm sure that, someone could probably set up a board on Pinterest and you could shop there as well, but that's not really the market. I think what's interesting, though, you talk about personalized things and you talk about personalization, and that's another aspect. Jenny, you hit on the catalog, and I think that that's really cool. A lot of brands are adding catalogs to Pinterest, but they're also adding this personalization styling board even, so you can go in and based on your pins and things, shop things for you. So I think that that's kind of, that's neat, because if I'm as a user, that's free to me. That doesn't cost me anything to have smart tech and, whatever is going on behind the scenes at Pinterest present things to me that it thinks that I will like and that I can buy.
Yeah, and I actually think Pinterest is cool because you don't see people That's actually something I like about it. It's kind of refreshing that you're on it, and like she said, personalization, and it's kind of custom to you, and I actually don't see people I know, which is weird that I actually like that about it. But our next tweet is from Global Investor, who says, Pinterest, recent buy at Nomura, fastest tech growing company, sees path to 3 to 4 billion revenues equaling 5 times growth. Domestic user base already exceeds Twitter, and international growth is significant. Fast ramp up in monetization and positive EBITDA in 2019. Positive channel checks with advertisers. So this is some more positive noise on the IPO because there are a lot of mixed feelings out there. It's been a little bit weaker than they expected. Guidance was softened, but going forward, what could we expect from this company really, Megan?
We're looking at purchase intent long term, and right now I think their quarter ends in about 2 weeks at the end of June, and we're seeing about 4% quarter over quarter purchase intent growth and about 8% year over year purchase intent growth. So, that's the kind of, you want to see that continue after IPO. So I think that that's a really positive note for Pinterest. In addition, their sentiment is around 76%. That's not bad, especially for a perceived social media company, even though they're trying to brand themselves as a visual search company. So I think that from our perspective and from data, purchase intent is trending the way that it should.
And real quick, Megan, as we wrap this up here, looking at it versus the stock price, outside of kind of the initial euphoria of buying once this company became public, you're seeing kind of steady as she goes stock performance as well. IPO's price, I believe, was 19. You're trading 26 now. That's still pretty strong in terms of a percentage performance. But comparing that to what your data is showing, do you see any type of a divergence between the two? Or when you guys look at this, does it look pretty in line?
I think that with it being such a recent IPO, it's really hard for us to track. It was pretty volatile at the beginning. I think it, flirted in the 30s for a while and then kind of fell back down and leveled out. I think that, there was some soft guidance and the losses were greater than anticipated. So that's something that we'll watch moving forward, and especially to see how the market reacts, if they can continue to decrease those losses and continue to improve their ad revenue, then I think that they're on the right track.
All righty, we'll leave it there. Thanks for joining us, Megan. Have a great weekend.
Thank you. You too.